Hi everybody and welcome back to Lost Genre Reddit Stories. This post is from the subreddit Am I the A-hole and it's by user Recalcitrant Scribe. Am I the a-hole for laughing about a pretend allergy? Parents gave up wanting responsibilities for Thanksgiving meal about 5 years ago. My house is big enough to host and I enjoy cooking, so for the past 3 years the duties have fallen to me. I make the turkey, the stuffing, mashed potatoes, and gravy and rolls. Others bring sides and things like chips and drinks. This year, my brother and his wife came into town early and stayed over. Thanksgiving mid-morning, my sister-in-law wanders into the kitchen while I'm making stuffing. She sees my pile of breadcrumbs, celery, onion, sausage in a bowl, and me sautéing mushrooms. She says, "What are those for?" I told her they were for the stuffing. She put her hands on her lips and said, freaking out, "You can't put mushrooms in the stuffing! I'm allergic!" I was stupefied. I said, "When did this happen?" And she just looked at me like I was an idiot. So I said, "When did you discover you're allergic to mushrooms?" She scoffed and said, "I've always been allergic." Now, the thing is, when I make my stuffing, I like things to be well incorporated, and I always chop the mushrooms small after I sauté them, so they're not actually apparent in the mix as mushrooms among the other ingredients. I burst out in a laugh and said, "Well, that's interesting, because you weren't allergic last year, and you weren't allergic the year before." She asked me what I meant, and I told her I'd been making stuffing like this every year she's eaten it, and furthermore, she's raved over it and had zero allergic reaction, so maybe she's just not allergic. Maybe she thinks she doesn't like mushrooms. She got pissed and went to my brother to tell him, and she told him she wanted to leave, but he wanted to stay. So she spent the entire rest of the day shooting daggers at me with her eyes. They were supposed to stay through the weekend, but they left Thanksgiving night. I confided in my mom and my sister yesterday, and they kind of chuckled and said it's not my fault, but my brother texted me this morning that I could have just not used the mushrooms and that I made his wife feel stupid for no reason. I maintain I didn't make her feel anything. Am I the a-hole? Well, Opie, in my opinion, no, you're not the a-hole. If she feels stupid, it's probably because she figured out that she's not actually allergic and she felt exposed and maybe humiliated. I don't know. But what I do know is that you're not the a-hole. I mean, unless you would have known that she had this allergy, even though we know she doesn't have any, and you put mushrooms in to test it, that would make you an a-hole. But in this case, you didn't even know, and she's had them before with no allergic reaction. So no, you're not the a-hole. And again, if she feels stupid, well, it's because she knows she's wrong. This is something she needs to deal with, not your problem, OP. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comment section, and now let's check out the community comments. Witty Stock 4913 says, "Not the a-hole. You pointed out you've used the same recipe. If she felt stupid, that was entirely herself making her feel stupid. You said nothing whatsoever to make her feel that way." Fancy Still 4297 says, "Not the a-hole, because no one with a food allergy should eat at someone else's house without disclosing that allergy. I have several food allergies, but only a couple cause anaphylactic reactions. I carry EpiPens and always disclose my allergies when accepting an invitation, basically saying I don't want to be a pain, but I can't eat these 5 items, so if that's a problem, let me know." MindGame26 says, "Not the a-hole, but I'll say this in her defense. I am allergic to mushrooms. Seemed weird even to me because I had eaten them before. Absolutely loved mushrooms. Turns out I'm only allergic to certain mushrooms. Food companies and even restaurants sometimes switch to different types of mushrooms. So maybe I can eat a particular dish for years, then suddenly can't anymore. The problem is that many people don't realize this. I didn't figure it out for years. Turns out I'd been needlessly denying myself for no reason." Summit Junkie 7 says, "Not the a-hole. She could just not eat the stuffing. And if she really believes she has an allergy, you ate this last year and the year before. Did you have an adverse reaction? It's important medical information, so you were right to tell her. If what she does with that information is feel stupid and throw fits, that's on her." And Via Vesta says, "Not the a-hole. I believe it's the responsibility of the one with allergies to inform others of their condition. It should have been brought up on the first dinner with her. However, I caution against dismissing her allergy as fake without more information." Food allergies don't always come with immediate reactions. In my case, I get diarrhea the next day after ingesting my allergen. It took me months to discover my allergy due to similar misconception. Additional information from OP's comments. A lot of people asked whether my sister-in-law had ever eaten my stuffing before or if this was actually a new recipe, and I just want to clarify. She has not only eaten it every single year, she has eaten it like it was going out of style. I'm talking seconds, thirds, and then sneaking back into the kitchen at midnight to smother it in gravy and go to town. I've seen her do this. I've also spent entire days with her afterward, running errands, going to movies, hanging out, and not once has she shown even the slightest sign of an allergic reaction. No stomach issues, no headaches, nothing. And this isn't some secret recipe I whipped out of nowhere. It's a family recipe. My brother grew up eating this. He knows exactly what's in it. And I've been making the same version every year. The only thing I do differently is chop the mushroom small so the texture is uniform. Other than that, it's the same stuffing she has raved about for years. The internet is also full of mushroom stuffing recipes, so it's not like I'm inventing some bizarre combination here. Let me also be clear, I would never intentionally put someone in danger. We have a kid in the family with nut allergies, and we're incredibly careful about that. If sister-in-law had ever said, even once, "Hey, what's in this stuffing?" I would have made her a separate pan without question. But she's never mentioned mushrooms, never mentioned an allergy, never mentioned anything, until suddenly she was acting like I dumped poison in the bowl. What also surprised me was her attitude during this. She wasn't just panicked, she was downright rude. It was the kind of attitude that hits you so hard your brain just reacts. That's honestly why I laughed. Not because allergies are funny, they aren't, but because the whole situation was so absurd when held up against the last several years of her happily devouring this exact stuffing without a single care in the world. And for the record, I didn't catch her out for sport. I was genuinely confused and taken aback. My sister's a vegetarian. She doesn't demand the entire meal be remade for her. She just doesn't eat what she can't eat. That was the mindset I had going into this. As for my brother being mad, it's not even really about the stuffing. He's mostly pissed he missed game night, and somehow that's also my fault. Never mind that they contribute basically nothing to the meal except their presence. My mom brings cheesecake, my dad brings a six-pack, and that's the extent of the help I get from their side. Sister-in-law's insisting she's always been allergic, and she has inhaled this stuffing for years with zero symptoms. I mean, what am I supposed to do with that information? Nod and pretend it makes sense? Anyway, I still don't think I was the a-hole here, but apparently I'm the villain of their weekend getaway now. The community in general agrees OP is not the a-hole, but some flags were risen regarding mushroom types and recipes. In any case, let's move on to the update to see how this story ends. First, thanks everyone, even those of you who said I was the a-hole. You gave me a lot to think about. So, I just got off the phone with my brother and I'm sitting here with a beer, truly at a loss for words, but here goes. He admitted that my sister-in-law, who has been eating my stuffing and my sister's green bean casserole, this has been verified, for a few Thanksgivings now, did not know there were mushrooms in either. Neither has she ever told anyone, not my brother, her husband, not my mother, sister, me, of any allergies before now. Because she doesn't have any. Apparently, and I'm still trying to wrap my head around this, she has like a phobia, I guess you would call it. Maybe that's not the right word. But after watching a TikTok video about some edible mushrooms growing on dead skin on feet or in human bodies, she believes she can be infected by eating them. She's always been susceptible to off-the-wall opinions, but this is beyond any other time she has stubbornly clung to an idea. Also, the first time that she's included dictating to someone else. My brother tried assuring her it wouldn't happen, but she cited other videos she's watched about spores, etc., including the show The Last of Us, which he explained is fiction created from a video game. But she swears it is based on fact and still possible. I feel like we have bigger problems here than stuffing. I have encouraged him to try to get her to see a doctor to talk about this. Well, Opie, at least you know that she's not allergic. Maybe talking to a doctor will help her either get out of her naivety or figure out that there's maybe some deeper issues there. So on that note, here's wishing you the best in the future, Opie. Thanks so much for sharing and take care. And now let's move on to the next post that also has an update. This post is from the subreddit Am I the A-hole, and it's by user Bachstats. Am I the a-hole for not wanting to give up my bed for guests? My 30 female fiance, 32 male, and I have been living together since February, 10 months. When we moved in together, I bought my queen bed and we put it in a spare room for guests. Since then, we've had a couple friends and my sister visit, and each time they've stayed in the guest room. Fiance's parents are staying one night for the holiday, and he had planned to have us move over and sleep in the guest room and give his parents our room. His logic is simple. His parents are older, late 50s, would have easy access to the ensuite, and it's what he's always done for their visits. The one difference is that whenever they visited in the past, it was at his old place with no guest room or bed, so he offered them his room. He slept on the couch, and I would be at my place. We recently got a king-sized bed, and so the bed he used to have, that his parents have slept on, is in the guest room, and my old bed is now not in use, but still in the house for additional guests. When we bought the mattress, he texted his family about it, and then also said, "So you guys will have a comfy bed to sleep on for Thanksgiving." It didn't occur to me that meant us giving up our bed and sleeping in the guest room, but I learned this morning that's what he intends. I feel weird about it. The guest room has the bed they've always slept on for visits. There's a guest bathroom directly next to the guest room, not en suite. And we'd have to wash the sheets twice in 24 hours and adjust a bunch of our stuff to move over there. On a personal note, before it was his room he was giving up, but now it's our room, and I don't love people being in my stuff regardless of snooping. They're very nice. I'm not worried about them intruding specifically, but the principle of the matter. The thing is, he already promised it to them, and we'd be going back on that. I don't know if I'm willing to fight over this, but I am trying to understand his perspective and help him understand mine. We have different cultural backgrounds, so perhaps that's a barrier for us. Thoughts? Well, I don't think you're an a-hole. I think you're in the right, OP. It's true. It is your personal private space. Your fiance was able to offer that space when it was just his, your logic. But now it's both of yours. So he should talk to you first about it. And even if he was raised differently, it's not the way you were raised. So you'd at least appreciate respect in that matter, right? Now, for this instance, you've got two choices. One, you tell him that he needs to take the invitation back and of course not blame it on you. Or two, you bite the bullet this time, but next time the boundary is absolutely enforceable and has to be respected. Personally, I'd probably take the first option, but of course it is still an option. For me, that'd be the start of the conversation. But this is something you guys definitely need to talk about. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments section, and now let's check out the community comments. Tasty Acanthisita 1 says, "Not the a-hole. His parents don't need your bed and I'd be putting my foot down there. Late 50s is not old either, lol." Fine Mouse 8871 says, "Not the a-hole. What is the point of a guest room if not for guests? Does he really want his parents in your marital bed? Now you have to bother them for personal belongings and clothes. As a parent, albeit a new one, I would not want to stay in that room." Keto Lurker here again says, "Not the a-hole. Both for this and your boyfriend is an a-hole for acting as though his late 50s parents are so decrepit and ancient they can't walk to a hallway bathroom. But yeah, time to consider where and when he will want to always put his parents above you." And Defiant Sandwich 1670 says, "So he's happy for his parents to have more rights to your own place than you have? It made sense when there was no spare bed. It does not make sense now, when there is a spare bed, even two. He worries about upsetting his parents and going back to the offer that he made without consulting you, the other person that lives there. He does not worry about upsetting you. His parents will always come first and you will always come third after him." Opie's edit. A couple details I realized I forgot that add some nuance. 1. His parents have separate bedrooms at home and they typically don't sleep in the same bed, but the largest bed they have is a queen. Fiancé thinks giving them the king is easiest for them to share a bed with each other since it's not their norm. 2. His mom has had health issues, brain surgery in the last year, and so we all want to make her as comfortable as possible. I just think the guest room is adequate. And 3. They will be sleeping in our bedroom when they visit for our wedding next year. That is established and agreed upon. We'll be in a hotel and his parents and sister will be in our house. So regardless, they will sleep in the bed at some point. Just in that case, we won't also be in the house. The community agrees OP is not the a-hole, but they're raising a flag about the fiancé and who he puts in priority number 1. So now let's move on to the update to see how this story ends. Thank you to everyone who helped me see more of his side and further understand why this was all getting to me. Grossness factor of sharing bets aside, I think at its core it was just hard for me to process a decision being made and communicated without my input. And I was stressed over being the bad guy and contradicting him and didn't appreciate being put in that position. Fiancé and I spoke about how I didn't appreciate being cut out of the decision-making process, and he apologized and admitted he didn't really think about it much past what he's always done. We agreed the guest room is sufficient, it's just that he had deep cleaned our room and prep and was having to recalibrate and consider doing a full clean on the guest bedroom too. That made him put resistance earlier. We're good. We've also talked through some other situations where we've made decisions for the other person without their full input and consent. I've done this when making plans with my parents too, and I think we have a decent plan moving forward. Thanks everyone. Well, OP, I think this is a great update. Couples growth. You guys had the conversation, understood that there was another person, let's say, in the decision-making process, and now you guys have a plan to move forward. So congratulations, OP. So here's wishing you guys the best. Take care and thanks for sharing. And now let's finish this video with a mood booster post. This post is from the subreddit Petty Revenge and it's by user Big Max. My contractor co-worker quit with 10 seconds notice after what our manager said about contractors. I worked an engineering contract for a while. They were pretty open-ended, like a lot were with a vague but not binding length specified. Kind of like, this contract is expected to be for 12 months, but it is at will of the employer and could end earlier or be extended further. But for those that do that kind of work, usually they stick to the vague timelines, and a lot of well-performing contractors get extended. Anyway, one day our team of 10, all contractors, managed by one full-time employee, let 3 of the contractors go, and he had me do it. Technically, I was running that team, but I was a contractor too and not in charge of any firing like that. So they were told, "This is your last day," at 4 p.m. Me and another contractor asked our sponsor, "Hey, how come we didn't give those guys any notice?" He said brightly, "That's why we hire contractors, so we can cut them loose at a moment's notice whenever we want to." We didn't love that answer. Also, it was a weird thing to say to 2 other contractors. He basically told us we'd get no notice and be let go instantly someday. Anyway, long story short, that other contractor was a very sharp guy. He started interviewing and got another job. He told me about it and I didn't tell anyone else. It started in a few weeks. He just kept right on working the contract job and was right in the middle of a bunch of work that only he understood. At 5 p.m. on his last day, he just stood up, grabbed his laptop, mouse, docking station, walked to our sponsor's desk and sat them down. He just said brightly, "Hey, thanks for everything. This is my last day." The guy said, "Wait, are you leaving?" And he just said, "Yeah, thanks," and walked out. That was it. He did also hit send on a more official last day email at the same time too. It was really funny. His work was half done. He didn't answer any calls or questions about it, and it took us like a month to figure it all out and get that project back on track. If the sponsor hadn't been so delighted about being able to fire contractors at any second, that guy would definitely have given a nice 2-week notice and worked to have a smooth handoff of his work. Nice, OP. Clever man indeed, your co-worker. Thanks so much for sharing. And that's it for today's video. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch it. Now, if you've gotten to this point in the video, I assume that you like these stories that I'm reading out. So here are a couple more that you might enjoy. And if you don't have any time to watch another story right now, save it for later. And also, don't forget to hit that subscribe button.